on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield, welcome to the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Also brought to you in part by Coors Light, Choose Chill, and Gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit rudys.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. Through it all. And by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Now, the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Here's the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco.
Howdy, Ags. We welcome you to Rudy's, another edition of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit, coming off the 33-20 win at Florida on Saturday. We've got an hour to talk about that and the next opponent, but first and foremost, howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
It's good to see you.
It is. It's always good to be in here after a win, for sure.
Always good to be in here. And the way the team won on Saturday. I loved what you said right after the game. I love what you said on Monday, and you've repeated it. The effort and the strain, that was the best, and that all paid off for your team, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it's learning as a group that we can control certain aspects of how we play, and we can have ownership over them all the time. And effort's the easiest one, right? And you can go into every environment and just make a decision that I'm going to play harder than the person I'm going against, and that'll give you a chance to have the result and the success that you want. And when you start with just easy accomplishments, I think it just kind of builds some confidence. And, you know, we knew it had been a long time since we had won on the road, and we just kind of wanted to focus on something that the kids could get their head wrapped around, and that's what it was. You also made a point of saying it was good that we had some adversity, but maybe more importantly, overcame that adversity on Saturday. Yeah, for when you go on the road, like I don't know if anybody can really quite feel it, but like when you're on the sideline and it doesn't take much to feel like your whole world's falling apart when you're on the road in an SEC stadium. And so, you know, even though I thought we had control of the game mostly, you know, it's all of a sudden it's one play, it's one negative play, it's one sack, it's their touchdown drive to start the third quarter, and all of a sudden it just feels like everything's going against you. And we talked a lot about that in the week lead up to the game was, you know, that you had to control what you could control. You had to be there for each other. You had to support each other. And at times you just had to embrace the fact that it was going to feel that way, and you had to overcome it. And so I thought we were able to do that. Get off to a great start. You talked about if you play on the road, you love to play from ahead, not have to play from behind. And it really seemed like there was that will. You imposed your will on that offensive line. It seemed to me a line of scrimmage game, especially from the start, was won by Texas A&M. And instead of saying, oh, that's great, let's do something else, you kept going right back to it. And when Florida couldn't do anything about it, 60 minutes later, the scoreboard said what you wanted it to say, didn't it? Yeah, for sure. And I think at times we were balanced. I think people at the end of it, the run results were what they were. I think if you go back and look at the first two drives, we were very balanced in how we started the game. And I thought Marcel did some things with his feet, made some throws, and really did some things. And then to some degree, I think weather and then score at two separate times in that game really dictated it. And we had to rely on our offensive line, you know, and I thought, you know, the drive obviously I was most proud of, and who wouldn't be 99 yards, but like we go out there, we get the ball on the 1 yard line, we're pinned against the goal line, and it starts really coming down, right? It starts really raining, monsoon-like conditions. So, you know, you can't throw it. You got a 10-0 lead. You can't put the ball at risk in that situation, and you just got to get behind the big uglies up front and let the Maroon Coons do what they can do. And, you know, Le'Veon Moss rips a run, and all of a sudden we got some breathing room, and I think we hit 3 10-plus runs in that drive, and I think that was really a testimony to kind of where we're trying to go from an O-line standpoint. The yards after contact and the broken tackles was impressive as well. Is that a residue of all those players not missing a lift in the summer and then realizing here's the result of not missing that lift? Yeah, for sure. And we've talked a lot about Le'Veon Moss in particular, just about how much better he is right now, physically, mentally, all of it. I think Trooper Taylor's done a phenomenal job with him. I think he's embraced what we're about. I think there's a lot of trust that's been built between him and this new coaching staff. And I think he's really flourishing in this new environment. And not that he wasn't before,
right.
but I just think he's really feels good about where his body's at right now. And as a running back, when you start running and you start feeling yourself running through things, it's a really, really good feeling. And I think the other thing that gets lost is, our backs are big. EJ is a 215-pound back. Lev's got to be 220. I don't know exactly what he weighed in at this week, but they're big backs, and so I think we've spent a lot of time with them too, getting them to run like big backs. Stop bouncing things, stop pushing things to the perimeter. Get behind your pads and run like a big back. And I think they did that.
And then Amari's catch was a 22-yard catch, was a big one. Not just the 99-yard drive. You got a 92-yard drive to take that 10-0 lead. That was another big drive, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. They had the penalty on the punt, right, which you don't want, which is going to be the big negative story of the game, was way too many penalties. But you had the penalty on the punt. They wound up pinning us down on the 8-yard line, and we're able to push that thing forward, and we converted a 4th and 5 on a penalty. Noah ran a really good route, and the kid reached out and grabbed him, and so we had no one to throw to, but we got the penalty for it. Amari had a big 3rd down conversion. That was big down the sideline. And I think the other thing that really impressed me, and it showed up a lot on those drives too, was some of our downfield blocking I thought was noticeably better. We had some kids really putting in tremendous effort to get down the field and turn 10 yards into 20, specifically on Amari's catch. You had Jabri Barber come back and do one of those flybys and get him really going down the sideline. And so I think it all came together.
Even on Cyrus Allen's touchdown, you can see he and Noah communicating.
And we pointed that out. And when you talk about culture, right, and caring about the people in your building and in your locker room, Noah Thomas obviously wants the ball, right? He's a wide receiver, and all wide receivers want the ball to come to them. But here's a ball that winds up in Cyrus Allen's hands 45 yards down the field, and here's Noah Thomas 10 yards out in front of him, running harder, if not faster than Cyrus, to make sure he gets into the end zone, right? And we talked about that a lot coming out of the first 2 games, was you don't want plays to end on the 7-yard line. You don't want, because you never know how those drives go, right? And so if we're out in space and all it takes is a little bit of effort from somebody to make sure we get this thing in the end zone, and so we started a Men of the 10 club is what we call it now, and so we're charting that stuff a lot in practice, and I think it showed up in the game.
That and the convoy that Bryce Anderson, there was no way he was not going to score on that interception.
I'll tell you what. So Bryce is fast, probably one of, if not the fastest kids on our team. Shamar Stewart on that interception, if you go back and you watch that play and you watch Shamar Stewart take off to go get out in front of him, and I told our guys this, so proud of how many guys went flying down the sideline, but also how many guys didn't do anything dumb on the return to bring it back, right? You get into all those positions where you can get the kill shot and the cheap shot, and nobody took it because none of it was needed, and wound up being a really good play.
Shamar had a really good game, didn't he?
He did.
And that's one of many, but I thought he imposed his will very early and then throughout that game.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was probably his best game as an Aggie from the film that I'd seen, and I thought he got a really good pressure on the one rush. I thought he was active all day. The play he made on the screen was lights out. He was disruptive in the run game. I thought he played really, really well.
We have much more of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit, to come. We're at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. It's Aggie Football from Learfield. Howdy, Ags. Play the Texas Lottery today for your chance to win exciting prizes. And remember, luck happens to people like Ashley Willis. She wins tickets to the Bowling Green game. She'll get pregame sideline access and a few gift items from the Texas Lottery. So keep a lookout for your chances to win from the Texas Lottery. Ashley did that. All these prizes you could win too. Texas Lottery supports Texas education and veterans. Scratch 'em tickets and gig 'em. It's the Aggie Football Hour. It's with Mike Elko, and it's presented by Capital Farm Credit. They're already checking in, Coach. They're checking in from Lucas, Latonia, Elgin, San Antonio, Corinth, Comanche, and Capel. Ronnie Barber's checked in from Tokyo. Effie Constantinu has checked in every week since Nick's been here, and even Nick now kicking in Hamilton. She's checking in from Melbourne, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Nashville. But there's a couple that I need to pass along to you. Andrea and Kathleen have checked in as well behind the mic.
Yeah, we got a couple people down in Daytona checking in. We always mention Apex. family in Apex is always watching, and so, hey, Michelle, how are you? And but no, everything's good. Yeah, a lot of family out there love the Facebook stream. Not happy with last week. Excited that we got it back up and going.
Absolutely. We got the new camera, and Matt Simon turned that around. I saw Michelle in the hotel. I said, I apologize. Camera went down, but we turned that show around as quickly as possible to let you know that Mike is doing okay. And because of the rain, I didn't get the chance to see the Elko era sneakers, but I'll get a chance to see them later. But did you have some family as well? If you said Daytona, were they able to see it?
Yeah, I did. I got a lot of family that lives over in the Daytona area. My mom and dad are over there now too, and so a lot of them came up for the game. And anytime we play in Florida, it's always a big Elko turnout. When we played in the Orange Bowl, I think I had about 28 family members at that game that night. So yeah, Florida's almost our second home.
That's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, Marcel Reed was fantastic. The poise for him. Not surprised because of what he's done, but you know what it's like, Mike. Sometimes, hey, that first start, can it be too much? Marcel was Marcel, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He had a lot of confidence. He did a really good job out there. We tried to keep it off of his plate as long as we could. I think we kind of had a really good idea coming out of Thursday what was going to happen. We weren't 100% sure. We knew Connor was going to do everything he could to get himself ready. But coming out of Thursday with where Connor was, we kind of felt like it was going that road, and we kind of left it. And just kind of walked up to him in pregame and said, hey, it's your game. And he just kind of took it and ran. But we kind of felt like that was the best way to kind of get him sleep and get him rested and have him not kind of have his brain go running all over the place. And he went out there and played a heck of a game.
I had to chuckle because after you spoke with everyone on Monday, Albert Regis was up there, and Albert was asked, were you surprised? He goes, we're not surprised. He said, what I was glad about is he was doing it to somebody else but our defense. He said, he's been doing this to us every single day.
Yeah, no, the electricity that Marcel has as an athlete jumps off the screen, and you go out and when he takes off in scrimmages or he takes off in practice against the defense, it's a different gear and it's a different level of athleticism that he runs with, and it's hard to handle, it's hard to deal with, and it keeps you on your heels as a defense.
Sometimes when we watch football, we label players as dual threat. We don't think that they're good throwers, right? It's almost always run first.
Yeah.
That's not the case with Marcel. He can run.
Yeah.
And I know there's design runs. He throws a beautiful ball, though, Mike. He really does, doesn't he?
For sure. And I think this is how I've always kind of worded it is I think when people say dual threat, they are a runner. And I think what I would say is Marcel's a very athletic quarterback. He understands the game. He makes progressions. We don't change the offense much when he's out there. You obviously emphasize the things that he does well, but it's not like we've been prepping two separate offenses for the two quarterbacks. We feel very confident in both of them. And the same thing with Connor. Connor is a very good athlete too, and so we haven't taken the quarterback run out of the game just because Connor's out there. And so I think we have to, I've said this for a long time on the podium, we've got really good quarterbacks in this program, and we did a really good job keeping them all here. I think that was really critical and really important. When you play an SEC schedule, you need depth at that position, and we're fortunate to have it.
And we haven't even brought up Jalen Henderson.
Right.
Has the same qualities, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's a great leader. He's a great kid. He's out there getting himself ready every day. And, unfortunately, he's not at the spot he wants to be. And we talk about that all the time with our kids, I understand the frustration, but it has to be bigger than that, right? And be a pro and just continue to conduct yourself the way you need to, and you never know. And the worst thing you can do is not prepare for that moment, because it seems like the moment always comes at some point. And so you just gotta push through the frustration and prepare. And I think our kids did a really good job with that.
You don't really want a kid who says, I'm okay, I'm number 3.
No, and I've never been the coach who can get into front of him, try to manipulate him how okay it is. Like, it's just just be real with them. Like, listen, I get it. I know it's not what you want. I know you're not in the position you want to be. I'm good. Like, I understand why there's a little frustration, but here's the best way you can respond. Right? Yeah. Here's the best way you can respond for you. And I think kids appreciate that approach too, just an open, honest conversation and not trying to make it into something it's not.
I heard a really good story last year. The defensive line last year under Elijah, they would get together, they would watch film on their own, and they'd bring food in, and they'd do that. Well, Marcel sees that and says, can we be part of that group? And the D-line was like, this is our group, we're doing this. It was nothing mean or anything. Yeah. So Marcel said, you know what, I'm going to do that with the quarterbacks. Yeah. Like, I love seeing that. Like, how can I get better? So they're watching film together, and Marcel said, you know what, the quarterbacks are now going to do that. For a true freshman to do that and say, hey, how can we all get better and have that
tight-knit group as well, I thought said an awful lot. So little things like that don't surprise me when you see Marcel Reed. Like other people maybe, but when you hear a little bit of the backstory, you're like, there's that preparation that you always talk about.
Yeah, and that's where culture comes into this thing, and that's where culture matters so much. And that's why when Marcel becomes the starter, you see people elevate their play around him, right? And I think everybody tried to step up to make it, you couldn't hide the fact that it was his first start. It was going to be his first start no matter what we said or did. And I think people around him stepped up and made a lot of plays to help him. And then you see Connor on the sideline, and he, because he's bought into everything, he's engaged in every game, every play. He's talking to Marcel as he's coming off the field. He's another quarterback coach on it. And that's, like, when people use the word culture and everyone's like, well, what does that mean? We just need 5 stars that can play and whatever. Like, that's what culture does, right? It brings your team together in a way that they figure out how to elevate at the right moment for each other. That's how you get over the finish line sometimes when you need to.
And the Aggies did that on Saturday with a 33-20 win in Gainesville. Bowling Green is up next this Saturday at Kyle Field. More of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together, we're better. I have to start with this one. Mom's checked in.
Yeah, Mom's checked in. Got to say hi to Mom. Got to make sure that she doesn't feel like she's left out. Mom and Dad down in Daytona, they watch live every week too.
Yeah, I had to do that. I left Apex for you, by the way. I do that.
Smart move.
Yes, it is. Pearland, class of '94, McLean, Virginia, Forney, Leonard as well. They're all checking in. Get a chance to talk to you as we talk more about that win. The defense, the 3 interceptions, that was another thing you talked about on the road. Winning that turnover battle was big, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And so, when you look at the critical stats in the game, you win the turnover margin 3-0. One of those goes for a touchdown, and so that's obviously always a huge factor. And it's hard to lose a game when you do that. And then factor in out rushing an opponent 310-52, and you put those 2 stats together. And I'm not sure anyone's ever lost a game in football with those two margins. And so I think those are where the game gets won.
You said that too many penalties. What's the other thing? Finish. You wanted to finish. And those are things until you go through it. Sometimes, like they can hear you say it all they want. Till you go through it, then there's that realization, okay, that's what coach is talking about. But it's always nice to do it after a win, isn't it?
No, for sure. And I told the guys this on Monday. Like, everyone on the outside thinks football is, good and awful, right? Like, there's this huge, massive difference between winning and losing and what it looks like. From the inside, it's fractional and it's marginal, and that's the truth of it. And it's marginal when we lost to Notre Dame, and even though the game went how we wanted it to go, it was still marginal in how we beat Florida. And so if you take the good and growth with it, but you take the bad, learn and get better and improve, and take this mentality of growth every week, every day, find something you can get better at and improve, that's how you sustain success. And so that's what we talked about. And so the penalties weren't good. They weren't what we wanted to be. Obviously, that's something we've got to get cleaned up and fixed. Once we got the lead and got up off of Bryce's touchdown, I don't think we finished the game the way we wanted to or the way we should, and that's something we've got to fix and get cleaned up. And but there's always going to be that. And I think the thing our kids are starting to learn and appreciate about me is, like, it's going to be very consistent. There's never going to be a Sunday where we walk in and go, bam, we got it all right. That's not how it's going to happen. And there's also never going to be a Sunday where I walk in and say everything's broken. Right. We got to scrap it all and we got to start from the beginning. It's just never going to be. It's not how football is. And so it's just this constant progress, constant development that you're looking for, that you got to get every week.
Yeah, and the thought in the SEC, there are no easy games, and everyone has that talent to score twice very quickly, right? That's always, I don't want to say fear as a coach, but even if Florida's struggling, they still have the talent to do that. So if you can put them away as best as you can, you want to take that opportunity.
For sure. And then I think that the other part of it is like perspective from inside versus perspective from outside, right? Outside perspective is Florida's a game you should go win hands down, right? From the inside perspective, the last time we played a Billy Napier Florida team, we played them in Kyle Field and we got our butt whooped. We haven't won a road game since 2021. I think that was a massive accomplishment to go on the road in the swamp and beat Florida. That's a talented football team with a lot of NFL football players. We did what we were supposed to do. I get it, and I'm good with that. But you win on the road in this league. It's an accomplishment.
You earn it. And by playing with the lead, you take some of that crowd out. That was loud at kickoff.
It was very loud. It was loud at kickoff. I think it affected us early. I think it affected us with some of the things we could do with the snap count. We had, it's every football game plays like this, right? You have one plan with how you think you can operate, and then our kids were a little bit rattled on that first drive, and so we had to settle some things down and maybe even simplify a little bit more what we were doing with the snap count, and so we had to do that, and kids adjusted and adapted to that. I thought it was really good for us.
Back to what you said, that little bit of adversity.
Yeah.
Going through it.
No, and that's Marcel, right? Like that's the play that he makes. The play he makes on the 2nd and 21. Everyone asked, did that settle Marcel down? Like, sure, to some degree, but I think it settled the team down, the game down, the crowd down. It doesn't start the way you want it to. We have a holding penalty, we have a false start penalty. Like we're pinned down on the 10-yard line. The place is going crazy, and then he gets out and he gets us that first down, and I think everyone just goes, oh, okay. We can just play football. And so I think more than settling himself down, I think that escape settled everybody down. We got into a much better rhythm after that.
We have more of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko to come. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We've got the very famous bridge. That's next. And then we'll peek ahead to the next opponent, Bowling Green, on Saturday at Kyle Field at 6:30. Stay with us. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. When you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call on the winning team at Schulte Roofing, home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. Rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Question time for Coach Elko. Travis, class of 67. Coach, are the receivers taught to break off their routes when they see the quarterback or quarterbacks have to scramble?
Yeah. I think there's, you have a kind of a pattern based on the route direction, where the route is headed when the scramble starts. You're going to try to create some misdirection in the route. So sometimes if you're going vertical, you put the brakes on, you come back towards the quarterback. Sometimes if you've got a shallow route, you're going to turn up and try to get away from the quarterback. But yeah, it's kind of our scramble rules is what we call them.
That we've talked about, the work after spring ball into fall camp, you can work together with teammates. Is that what some of that rapport is, to know I do this with Connor, I do this with Marcel, I do this with Jalen, I do this with Miles, something like that? Or is it route driven and what they're doing on that route?
Probably more route driven and what they're doing on that route, but I think we've gotten a little bit more time from the NCAA to do walkthroughs, to do some different things in the summertime, and I think we were able to take advantage of a lot of that, and I think that's where some of that stuff gets built.
Yeah, that's nice having teams together. Actually, and I'll talk about that a little bit with Bowling Green, but time together is very important.
It is.
Not just the skill guys, really kind of all of it, all 11, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, and especially nowadays, when there's so much turnover, and that's just the nature of college football, the way it is. Again, we use the word intentional a lot, but you got to be really intentional about how you bring all that stuff together.
Steve is asking, is there a former coach has given you the best advice on how to handle NIL in the transfer portal?
Oh, gosh. I don't know that anyone knows how to handle NIL in the transfer portal right now. I think everybody's just trying to wing it a little bit. But, no, I think, NIL is interesting because nobody wants to give away the formula, right? And so I think everybody is working in their own individual silos trying to come up with the plan to give their university an advantage, and we're certainly no different. I think there's some people that you trust, that you have conversations with behind the scenes about what you can do, what's possible, what are they doing, what are they hearing, and so you certainly do that. And then from the transfer portal standpoint, I think we just try to stay true to our process. I think when you think about the transfer portal, we have a plan of attack and how we go about recruiting. We try to apply that same thing to the transfer portal. Derek Miller's here, Alan Godet's here. They play a huge role with that in our scouting department, and so they kind of run that show.
You and Derek go way back, correct? To
we
the
do.
Bowling Green days.
To the Bowling Green days, right? Ironically. So
yeah, way back.
I'm not sure who he's rooting for this week. It's his alma mater that we're playing against.
Oh,
so
that's a good.
Whenever it's the alma mater against the school that pays the bills, it's always a battle inside your soul.
Yeah, it is. Always look at the upper left-hand corner of that check.
Yeah, that's always a good place to start from.
that really is. Layden Robinson said something last year when it came to the transfer portal. He was also a very big look in the mirror. Are you running from, I'm paraphrasing, are you running from something or running to something? Because if you don't like who you are, it doesn't matter what school you're there. So you've got to, is that a question you ask? Like, why are you leaving? One of the many questions I would think you would ask.
Yeah, and here's the analogy I'll make, and I don't know if I should say this live, but the people in this audience will appreciate this. The transfer portal is like the neighborhood garage sale, right? And so it's not just like go in and pick out whatever you want and everything's good. Like within the neighborhood garage sale, there's a lot of really good things, but it takes a lot of work. You know, you got to go you got to get out of the car, you got to go look around the whole lot, you got to look under some blankets, you got to look into you got to find what's right. And I think that's how you approach the transfer portal. Like it's not just, oh, hey, here's a shiny thing. I bet it's going to have nothing wrong with it, right? It's you kind of go in almost with a jaded thought process of like, okay, why is he transferring? How's he going to help us? What's the character like? What's he going to do when he gets here? What's his role going to be? Is he going to be able to handle his role? And you kind of put all of that together into a puzzle to project what it's going to look like on your roster. And I think that's how we approach it. And again, that's not the fans' perspective, right? The fans' perspective is everyone in the transfer portal is amazing. But I do think you can see, and I think you see it around the country, like some people get it really, really wrong. And that can doom a season, right? Some people get it really, really right, and that can propel a season. And I think you got to be really, really careful and deliberate about how you attack that portal.
You still have to layer everything with the high school recruits and all that. You still have to build that roster, right? It can't be so top-heavy that everybody leaves, right? There's still got to be that maneuvering, doesn't there?
Yeah, for sure. And we use the word evaluation all the time. And I think that's the one thing that's lost in all of this is evaluations are critical because there isn't one recipe. Everybody wants to come up with the clean, clear-cut recipe. You want to win national championship, you have to sign the number one recruiting class. Well, maybe you don't. You want to win the national championship, you have to go all in on the portal. Well, maybe, right? Like within all of it, there's good and there's bad, right? And how you balance all of that, the recipe you come up with, the process you develop and you stay true to and trust and stay true to that and let that course it out, right? And there's a lot of kids, you're seeing them right now. You know, when Marcus Ratcliffe decided to come here, like that wasn't a full of fanfare commitment, right? That was a kid from San Diego State, and it was like, all right, well, he's leading our team in tackles right now, and he's having a heck of a season. And then you get the other side of it. You get a Nick Skirton, who everyone is excited about, and he is playing really well. And so, like, it comes in a lot of different ways, shapes, and sizes, and we talk about that a lot. And I just think our process is really good with how we go about doing this stuff.
Zach is here from Atlanta. He's with the defense that's over in Rellis, decided to visit us. He said with a couple of quarterbacks, and I'm going to paraphrase, I'm going to add a little bit more. With a couple of quarterbacks, how do you keep them? How do you handle NIL? And I'll take quarterbacks out of that. How do you handle that with positions to make sure everybody's happy for all the positions on the football field?
Yeah, I think you have to be very honest. You have to be very real. It's no different. Like everyone talks about this as it's this brand new thing, and it is for college football, but it's not if you just model the NFL. You know, the NFL has been dealing with for years certain positions getting paid more, certain players getting paid more. It's not always fair, right? Some guys are on rookie contracts and they're playing really well. Some veterans are on free agent deals and they're not. Again, and so like the dynamics of all of that have existed in football, they just haven't existed in college, right? And so I think if you think about how that's handled in the pro level, it's very honest, it's very direct, it's very open. You don't hide from it. You don't kind of push it into a corner and hope it all works itself out. And I think that's the path that we've decided to take. You know, we're very open, we're very honest. We tell our kids, listen, I'm going to get you as much as I possibly can. And that's what this is about. But the flip side of that is one, there's going to be discipline and accountability to this program. And the second thing about it is I don't want to do this back and forth bartering for every penny. Like that's just not, that's not how this thing works in the real world. And so I think we've been really, really good at managing that with our kids. Our kids have been really good too.
Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. We'll roll on from Rudy's. We'll peek ahead. Falcons of Bowling Green when we return. Aggie Football from Learfield. Come visit Costa Vida in South College Station for Baja-style Mexican made from scratch daily. Serving breakfast, tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie owned and operated. Holly Johnston, that's our friend, proud partner. Texas A&M Athletics. It's the Aggies in Bowling Green on Saturday, 6:30. Falcons come in at 1-1, beating Fordham, losing at Penn State. That one went down to the wire. And they're coming off a bye week while you slog through an SEC contest at Florida.
Yeah.
Nice scheduling by Bowling Green.
Yeah, great job by them. Yeah, and obviously Bowling Green, a place that's really near and dear to my heart. We started working there. I started working there. I think about 3 days after my daughter was born.
Really?
Yeah, and so she had just been born, and then my wife came out about a month later. And our first memories of Bowling Green are the five of us. So I think Michael was probably 5, Andrew was probably 2 or 3, and then Caitlin was a newborn, and we were living in a dorm. That was the temporary housing when you went to Bowling Green. So the 5 of us were in a dorm room with like 2 twin beds, and that's how it all started. Yeah, so it was. We had a good time at Bowling Green.
You had very successful 5 years there, didn't you?
We did. We did. A lot of good people, a lot of good friends, a lot of great coaches. Some of them on our staff. Sean Spencer on our staff, coaching the D-line. He was there. Derek obviously was part of that Bowling Green crew, and so a lot of really good memories from that place.
Scott Loeffler now has a very experienced crew, and to me, a lot of schools in the MAC have been like that, where those kids stay. They're either from the area, and Ohio's a great football state, but they stay. His offensive line is experienced. There are very few sophomores who start on that defense. When you get together, you've talked about being comfortable in an offense or a defense. That's what Bowling Green is, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what makes them very good. I think when you look at them on both sides of the ball, the sum of their parts is really good. They know what they're doing on offense. They know the system. They do a really good job getting out of plays. They've got a really good mix of kids who have been developed inside that program, and then some Power 5 transfers who have come in and added some talent to it. And then defensively, they've been playing together for 6 years as a system. And so you can't make up for time on the field together. And I think that's what they have. And so they're going to be a big challenge for us Saturday night.
Connor Bazelak's the quarterback. If it's familiar, he was a quarterback at Missouri. Then he went to Indiana. Now Bowling Green for his second season, but an experienced quarterback as well, is he not?
For sure. The irony of it is he was the quarterback in the game that we won our last road game prior to the Saturday win in the Swamp. But experienced quarterback, has been in SEC stadiums, has been in SEC environments, certainly isn't going to get rattled. And at Penn State 2 weeks ago, he was very comfortable, very confident back there, and operated that offense at a really high level.
And it's a school that I think I read 5 wins as double-digit deficits.
Yeah,
going in that's something, because they're not spooked. They just went into Happy Valley.
Yeah, I think they have 4 SEC wins in their time. I think I read somewhere that Scott Loeffler, in his time at Bowling Green, has played in 5 of the 10 largest stadiums in the country after Saturday night. They're not going to be intimidated coming in here. They're going to come in and they're going to play their best game of football. And but it's about us, and that's what I told the guys. I said, whether we play Florida, whether we play Notre Dame, whether we play McNeese, whether we play Bowling Green, we're blessed with the ability to go out there and play our game to the best of our ability and know that we can control the outcome. And if we stay focused to that, then we don't have to worry about the ups and downs that come along with anything else. And so I think the focus for us all season, and specifically this week, is just go out and take the next step forward for our program. And
they had just talked about and played like a faceless opponent. Not just McNeese, really all 3 weeks, correct?
Yeah, we didn't say anything different about Florida. We didn't say anything different about Notre Dame. And there's a game plan, right? And there's personnel that you have to be aware of and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, we know our best game of football, our best brand of football, wins us a lot of football games. And so our focus needs to be internal. We talk about it all the time with our guys. Like, spend all your time looking 6 inches in front of your face. Put a mirror 6 inches in front of your face and spend all your time focused on that, and you'd be amazed at how great you can become. And when the season's over, take the mirror away, pick your head up, and you'll be really happy with where you are.
One final segment of the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit. We return to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. This is Aggie Football from Learfield.
Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie Football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or visit Rudy's.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoke meats, delicious sides. Rudy's signature sauce. Final segment before we get going. Happy birthday, Hank Coleman. That is Henry Coleman's dad. 3 years starting defensive end at Virginia Tech. One of the great names of all time. The death row D-line. They were number one in the rushing defense. You have a hell of a son. Going to tell you that right now, Hank and Henry Coleman. So, but
great
happy
kid.
birthday!
I got a chance to meet him at SEC meeting.
Yeah,
really well-spoken kid, phenomenal kid. Yeah.
Wonderful family.
Absolutely.
As well. Leland's playing at New Orleans, and Cynthia is just one of the sweetest women you're ever going to find. Keys for Saturday against Bowling Green.
Yeah, I think they're always the same. I think we got to come out. We got to start fast. I think winning the turnover battle again is critical. I think we've done that 2 weeks in a row, and I think we've really put that to bed early, and I think that has helped. And then I think we've got to do a really good job of handling their plan. And what I mean by that is they're coming out of a bye week. They're going to spend a lot of time on film. They're going to come in here, and they're going to have a really aggressive plan both sides of the ball, and we're going to have to be able to operate on the fly a little bit. They've had over a week longer to prepare, and so we got to make sure that we come out and we kind of do some things to kind of get the edge on our side and be aggressive as we start this game.
Does quarterback become another game time decision?
Yeah, I think so, and I think people who get to know me will know that it's probably going to be a game time decision for the rest of the season, and that's just how we handle things. And we have a lot of real honest conversations internally, but those stay internal, and so we'll do the best we can to get Connor healthy, and when we get to Saturday, we'll figure out who's playing.
As I say that, it's also a game time decision who's going to start at wide receiver and at defense, right? Because you have the competition in those spots, don't you?
Yeah, and we made a change last week and at wide receiver, and not because of anything else than just the way we thought was the best way to start the game for us to win. And we do that in the secondary. We do that on the it's just kind of the best way to go about it. And so it's why we've never named starters, right? Like we've never got up on a podium and said these are the starters. We got a lot of kids in our program working hard every week to give us the best chance to win, and quarterback will be the same way.
Beat the hell out of Bowling Green, Coach.
That's the plan. It's a special place, but we got to take care of it this weekend. And so thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it. Thanks, and gig 'em. We'll see you all Saturday in Kyle Field.
The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko is presented by Capital Farm Credit. Kevin Menchow's our engineer. Tony O'Neill produces the Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko, presented by Capital Farm Credit. 6:30 kick, 5:30 with our St. Joseph Health pregame on Saturday. We'll see you then. We thank you so much for joining us. Thanks, and gig 'em. This is Aggie Football from Learfield.